It is half year 2022. Wall Street has posted a lower final close, capping up a dreadful month and a quarter as the S&P 500's worst first half in more than 50 years. S&P 500 saw its biggest first half percentage decline since 1970 as all three main U.S. stock indices ended the month in the red. For more on these headlines, we're going to be joined by managing partner at Howard Minnis Asset Management, Uchenna Minnis. Uchenna, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Starting with the United States, what do you make of the performance of equities so far this half year?
I mean, it's clear we're already in a bearish market. Maybe it's just the optics, and that's why we've not had financial media continue to hammer or reiterate on this statement. We're already in a recessionary level of scenario at the moment, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, all the macroeconomics indicators are pointing on the fact that risk assets are going to continue to bleed, and that's what we're currently seeing. Technically too, this market has actually been overpriced, and what we're seeing is a significant correction that has been managed and protected by the Federal Reserve. And I think at this point in time, they are caught up between the rocky place and the hard place at the moment, and they have to choose one. And that's what we're seeing.
Meta and that memo from Zuckerberg saying that the firm is going to be bracing for a tough 2022, and they're not hiring as many engineers as they initially planned. I mean,
that's a clear indicator, Rotos, if you can tell. I mean, Facebook, Meta, as you would say, amongst the FANG stocks, these are the guys that are already too big to fail. So when they start to complain and tell you that you should brace up, you should really brace up. They know what they're saying. They know exactly what they're facing internally, and they understand how the economic trend is indicating that this is a different time, really. And if you can look at the statement, he sort of highlighted that we are in a place where it is quite unprecedented in terms of macroeconomic activity. So when one of these big boys say that there is a problem, we should listen. And I think that's just it, really. There's significantly, it's just going to be a bumpy ride going forward, in my opinion.
Celsius and their restructuring of their debts, I guess, what do you make of the crypto crash and how it's impacting all these platforms?
I mean, I've always stated my stance. It was one of those digital assets that got on that frenzy speculative activity, and that's what we saw, where you have retail money, given the fact that central bankers were continually easing on the back of the pandemic. You had all this free money into retail participants, and they just started jumping on an asset that they had no idea what it entailed. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing the actual reality coming to bite. And most of these platforms, when you start to look at their books, you realize that they have also been irresponsible on how they manage their liquidity positions. And that's what we're saying now, right? When these things are starting to fall off in the way that the bubble is starting to burst, they're getting the brink of it. And that's what is happening right now. Companies like, there will be more. There will really be more. I mean, more companies will come out and say they're struggling. As you said earlier, they're already preventing people from taking withdrawals. I mean, that is clear. That's clear failure, if you would ask me. I mean, that's where we are.
Let's move to Europe. What do you make of? We've just seen EU inflation numbers just coming out. The decision to curb subsidized foreign companies competing for contracts in the EU. What do you make of that decision?
I mean, I think it's, as you've said, it's protectionist, but you're at the point where you need to stick up for yourself, really, and they know at every point in time when they go against counterparts like the Asian counterpart, China in particular. Now there is no time they would these member countries would come on top. So it's always going to be disadvantaged. The Chinese are way ahead in terms of their preparations and their infrastructure set up to engage on all these contracts. And so that's clear. I think it is maybe the wise thing to do at this point in time where everybody's struggling. When it comes to the inflationary pressure, it's really what it is. I mean, what do you expect? Everybody were printing on the back of the pandemic. I mean, that's a very valid excuse. But I mean, at some point, they were printing before the pandemic, and then the printing just got more aggressive after the pandemic. So at some point, something has to give, and what is giving now is inflation, and that's what we're seeing now.
Do you think that pushes the ECB to, I guess, force its hand to raise rates more than it's anticipating?
yeah, big elephant in the room now is the inflation, and you have to tackle that. I mean, you've mentioned what is happening in Sri Lanka. You don't want to see the eurozone tending to that point, so they would have to aggressively increase rates. At this point, I don't think they have a choice. When it comes to unconventional monetary policies, I don't think that's going to be enough. So they need to conventionally start to adjust their monetary policy stance at the moment. So I'm expecting that to be the case. And also, the big guy in the room has started to increase their rates. So you have to follow suit. At this point, it's not really a question. When the US is increasing their rates the way they're increasing, everybody else will follow.
Uchenna, Minnis, managing partner at Howard Minnis Asset Management. We appreciate your time taking us through those headlines. Thank you so much.